and welcome to I Lovecraft. Joining me again for another, I say review. We're going to talk about some other stuff aside from just a movie. Is Sandra Bump? Say hi.
Hi.
So we decided we were going to read Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space, and then watch the film based on it, and just kind of decide what is Lovecraftian.
Okay, well maybe define that first.
That's what we want to do. Is that cosmic horror, the fear of the unknown,
The unknown.
and the vastness of things that you can't comprehend. Yes.
Okay.
So how does the color of space?
Color out of space.
Color out of space. I keep saying that too. And I keep thinking of like when you're little and you have a coloring book and you're coloring outside
out of
the
lines. No, not like that at all.
Not very different. Okay, so The Color Out of Space is a book by, or story
It's
by,
a short story yeah.
by H.P. Lovecraft, and it deals with a meteor falling and the concept of something being undefinable, unnameable, undescribable. This color is different than anything we have in our world. And if you sit for just a few seconds and really think about that, what if there was a color you haven't seen before?
Right. Seems like it wouldn't exist because we have the whole light spectrum, right? But I don't know.
But that's at the root. What this is all about is there's this killer color.
Well, I mean, that's where the title comes from. But
there's a killer color on the loose.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What I thought was really interesting is that the whole concept of the unknowable and everything, it's not just a color. This color is like some sort of sentient being. You use that term loosely because it seems to affect anything that's alive, that's organic here on Earth. It gets into the fruit and the animals and the people and just everything. And it feeds off of them. And so it's like it's alive, but it's not organic, which, here on Earth, we've never heard of that. The only thing that we know that's alive is organic. We're all carbon-based, right?
And there's a little bit of it that reminds me of sort of the symbiotes from Spider-Man.
Spider-Man?
Yeah. It's just kind of gooey and this substance that feeds off other things. It's kind of a parasite in a way.
Like the Punisher? I don't know what he's talking about.
We'll skip that.
We'll skip that. Anyway, so are we going to dissect the story?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay. So Lovecraft is weird. Everybody knows that. So just get that out there right away. What I thought was really interesting about the story is he never really truly describes anything. Everything is all just unknowable or unnameable or this thing in the attic, or he talks about the dry, brittle skin, but then never describes what's actually happening. So when I'm reading the book and he's talking about how, his wife is disintegrating, what I'm picturing is kind of like in the movie Interview with the Vampire, where they hit the sun and they just kind of go poof, or like in Endgame and everything, when he poofs everybody away, right? That's what I was picturing. That's not what they did in the movie at all. No. So I think that's interesting that because he doesn't describe what's actually happening, he doesn't sit there and say, and then this happened, and then she did this, and then she did this. It leaves it up to everybody who's reading it. And so if you have a different perspective, you're going to imagine something completely different from my poofing.
Yes. Yeah. That's one of the things that I applauded, is that there was just enough for you to fill in the gaps. And then he kind of, he does a good job of starting off this mystery and talking about the blasted hearth. And I'm going... Blasted Heath, sorry. Yeah. And so that from the start, I'm going, what is that?
Never heard of a heath before?
Yes, but the blasted heath...
Well, I mean, I think that part's kind of anyway.
I didn't.
So he sets that up.
And then so I'm already kind of piqued to find out what the blasted heath is all about. And of course, it makes complete sense by the end. But I start going, okay, is this an old term? There's a little bit of old world terminology. It's. I think it's even better now than it would have been then because he does try to use this old world English that is in itself bizarre today.
Yeah, a little Puritan almost.
Yeah, very Puritan. And so that element kind of feels alien to you if you're younger and you're not used to a lot of terms.
Yeah. And it is set in the past. I mean, they're talking about horses and buggies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or not buggies, but carriages.
Sleigh. One guy was driving a sleigh around.
Yeah.
Which he didn't talk about the snow so much, so it was.
Well, it doesn't have to be a snow sleigh. There's other sleighs.
Oh, I did not know. Yeah. I thought you had to be on the snow for it to work.
Just something smooth.
Okay.
Anyway. So yeah, old school. Kind of mysterious. Yeah. This weird whole blasted heath. What the heck is wrong here? Why doesn't anything grow? And the story, when he writes the story, he's telling it from the water surveyor's point of view, but the water surveyor is interviewing the kind of half senile guy.
Ami, yes, a survivor.
His name. Yeah. So it's kind of being told through the water surveyor, through Ami, at what he saw that happened to that family. Gardeners, right?
Is that third or fourth person?
I don't know. Well, perspective, not person. But so it's kind of interesting there. They changed that in the movie, though, slightly.
Very much.
No. I mean, slightly. You still got the kind of half crazy dude.
Yeah.
But we don't really get the story so much from his point of view as from the water surveyor.
Yes.
He kind of takes on both of those characters because he's actually there surviving it while it's happening, but he's also the narrator during the movie.
The movie itself, not a faithful adaptation, but I applaud it for putting it in a more, today's setting.
Oh yeah, I thought it was a fantastic modern adaptation.
They included all the elements that did feel like Lovecraftian horror.
Oh gosh, when everything the alpacas. Oh my gosh, I thought I was gonna barf.
And that's what it's funny because I felt like the alpacas that was sort of pulled from John Carpenter's The Thing that happened with the dogs in that movie, which was pulled again, I think, from this story.
Well, yeah, because he does talk about how all the horses kind of get that weird, freaky disease or whatever, infection, I think he calls it.
Yeah.
And they do sort of start to disintegrate. But see, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking disintegrate, and here they have a more like melting together.
Yeah.
It's really, really gross.
Oh, by the way.
And then he shoots them and...
Spoilers.
Sorry. We can't analyze something without spoiling it, right? Hopefully you watched it before you watched this. But anyway. And then the thing with the wife and the kid, too, wasn't exactly how it happened in the book.
Not at all.
Because she was by herself in the attic turning into this weird thing. And the son, he went in the well, too, I think. A couple of them ended up in the well.
Two of them in the well, and one went crazy upstairs. I don't recall.
Yeah, there's like one locked in a room, the wife was locked in an attic, and then two fell in the well. Mm-hmm. So we didn't get it exactly the same, but...
Which is okay, because as I thought about it, and usually I go crazy when you take a source material and you butcher it, but at the same time, I'm starting to feel like, okay, if you're a fan of Lovecraft, you're going to watch it, and you don't want to see what you've read,
right?
You're not going to be you're not going to be freaked out by that.
I don't think he took it and butchered it like they do sometimes when they take a book and put it to a movie. I think it was just more he added a couple of his own elements.
He added a couple of elements. He updated it. And it still felt like we were getting just enough of the key things that made the story what it was.
And the first part of the movie was kind of like, okay, this is kind of weird, a little creepy. Everybody's acting kind of strange. But it wasn't until further into it where I'm watching it and I'm like, oh. And then I realized that my pulse is racing. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know. I didn't realize how scared I was. I actually put my finger and tested my pulse. I'm like, holy crap, my heart is pounding. Even though I know how this ends.
I was going to do something. I was going to go get some chopped carrots and offer you some chopped carrots.
That was so gross.
Lunch is
Don't
ready.
Eat carrots. Yeah.
Lunch
oh my
is
gosh.
ready. It'll be funny once you watch the movie.
Yeah. And also what I thought was really cool is in the book and the movie, he talks about how this color at first makes everything seem better. Like at first, all these beautiful flowers start blooming, and
Yeah.
like he talks about the tomatoes are big and ripe, and the
giant
peaches
fruit.
and everything. Yeah, and so at first it's kind of like, whoa, okay, this is cool. Where something from outer space made everything better, but then it's not. It's kind of like that. You know, it looks beautiful on the outside, but it's hollow and rotten on the inside. Yeah.
I also just found, and I watched before you came over, a German version that's more of a faithful adaptation on Tubi. And one of the things they got right, it's in German, by the way. So
Subtitles?
No, not subtitles.
Oh.
But if you read the book and then you turn around and watch it, you'll know exactly what's going on. One of the things they did right was doing it in black and white, and only the color from space was in color.
Actually color.
Yeah, and I felt that was one of the things they did right. But in watching that, I did realize that it's a great idea to actually change things up, because I just felt like I was reading the book over.
Right.
But when I watched the Nicolas Cage movie, I didn't know what was going to happen next exactly, and so it was a great thrill and surprise.
I like what they did at the end with the daughter too. How she kind of became like this conduit, and you could see this alien landscape.
Yeah.
That was really cool, and that's what I was talking about. That whole, it's some sort of sentient being, even though it's not anything that we know about. It kind of reminds me of. Have you ever read Bruce Coville?
No.
He's kind of like a young adult writer, but he did like My
How old
Teacher
is
is
he?
an Alien. Oh gosh, I read these books when I was a kid.
Is it,
He's like in his 50s or 60s. I think.
then he's not a young adult.
No, he writes young adult stuff. He's such a dork. Anyway, and he brought up something like that in some of his books about how, like, the captain of this spaceship that they're on is a crystal, like a sentient crystal, and the humans are all just like, what? How can you even do that? But we don't know. Just because we are all carbon-based organic beings doesn't mean that has to be what's out there.
Well, you're human. I haven't admitted anything.
Okay, we're not gonna go there.
What's funny is I realize as I'm watching or reading the story that Lovecraftian horror has become so ingrained in our culture that I, as a comic book writer, have done some projects where, and I've never read the story before yesterday.
Yeah.
But like 10 years ago, I wrote a story that is so similar to this. Was an asteroid that falls. It has a sentient being inside. It possesses a person and feeds off of the inhabitants of this planet.
So you plagiarize without even knowing?
I plagiarized it without even. That's exactly what I wasn't. When I read it, I wasn't like, oh, that inspired me. And I didn't even realize it. I was like, I straight ripped that off and didn't even read the story.
Well, they say there are no original ideas.
And this was a perfect example for me.
Anything else?
I guess we'll recommend that you read the story.
To get your own idea first. Because you want to have your own visuals.
Yes.
Because I'm a very visual person, so what I'm visualizing was not what Richard Stanley visualized in the movie.
No.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Nicolas Cage looks terrible. Oh my gosh. I was like, he looks so old and awful. Anyway. That's
But he has alpacas.
He has alpacas.
Those are alpacas.
And they're expensive.
Okay?
Yeah, and you can milk them.